On today's Locked On Giants podcast, Emory Hunt of Football Game Plan and CBS Sports joins us with his latest takes on the upcoming draft and the Giants' best direction. That's coming your way next here on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, credentialed member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find all of our written work, not just mine, but that of Coach Gene Clemens, Stephen Lebitch, the whole crew over at New York Giants on SI. We've been working really hard over there. And as always, welcome on into my Blue Crew community members, my everydayers, my newcomers, and everybody in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast and for making us your first listen of the day. And today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. And folks, on today's show, I promised I would bring him back. He's here. He's emerged from his lab. He's done studies on over 1,200 players. The hardest working man in the business, and I mean that with all sincerity. He is Emory Hunt of Football Game Plan, CBS Sports. Emory, my friend, welcome on in.
Glad to be on the show, Pat. Finally done with this draft guide and just ready to talk ball now.
I know you could missing for like the last several weeks, but you've been in the lab, you've been studying film, and folks, Emory looks at every prospect and he takes every ounce of consideration into his reports, does a thorough job. And I'm really excited to talk about some of these prospects as well as the Giants, what the Giants might be doing. And Emory, let's start there, shall we? Giants first round pick, number 3 overall. It seems more and more people are getting up the opinion that the Giants probably won't go Shedeur Sanders if he's there. First part of my question is, do you think that would be a mistake? And if not, what do you see the Giants doing at that spot if they keep that spot that potentially makes sense?
I think it would be a mistake, Pat, if Shedeur is there and they don't take him. We live in a world where everyone talks about you got to have a quarterback, you got to need a quarterback, it's a quarterback league, blah, 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 blah. Here's a quarterback that plays exactly like Joe Burrow, that has been referenced as playing like Joe Burrow, not only by me since 2021, throwing that out there, the tweets are there, but also by himself this past summer at Big 12 Media Day, and by Brian Callahan, the head football coach of the Tennessee Titans, who, oh, by the way, coach Joe Burrow. So to pass on that, because you feel as though you want to get somewhere else or want to do something else, that's just bizarre. That's just bizarre behavior, and that would be bad drafting because he's worth it. There's a quarterback of the future need for the Giants, and I think they would be wise to take Shedeur Sanders. It would also be dumb if he got to 3, because if you look at Cleveland's depth chart, they are screaming for a quarterback. So if Shedeur is there, that means it's a massive whiff by the Cleveland Browns. But let's say the Browns do the smart thing and the right thing and take Shedeur Sanders and or Cam Ward, whoever's there. The Giants at 3 now. I think the best option is Travis Hunter. And the reason why I think Travis Hunter is the best option is because he helps you solve multiple issues on both sides of the ball. You need another threat to take away some of the pressure from Malik Neighbors on offense. And Travis Hunter is someone that can do exactly that. On defense, you need someone that can take the ball away. Travis Hunter is someone that can definitely do that. And what makes it fascinating about him is the fact that when you look at Travis Hunter on defense, why would you ever throw his way? You are literally throwing to a wide receiver if you're a quarterback. So that means you're taking the receiver that he's covering completely out of the game plan. You're not throwing that way because he can catch it just as much as your receiver can, if not better. And it helps you add more versatility to your defense, because why relegate Travis Hunter? Because, again, you could have, let's say, Paulson Adebo is healthy and ready to get back to what he was doing with New Orleans before the injury. He's out there. Banks, we know, is out there as a press guy. We know the young corner, Drew Phillips, is a great nickel defender. Where's Travis Hunter going to fit? Put him out there in deep third. Let him just go get the football. You can put him back there as a safety. Just let him roam and take the ball away. On offense, he's your number 3 guy because you can have Slayton, you could have Malik Neighbors, and you throw in Travis Hunter. He's probably already better than the number 3 corner he's going up against. So when people worry about him not being able to play this on both sides of the ball as a pro, I think that's false. He's actually going to get a bit of a break in the NFL because he won't have to play 125 plays like he did in college because he's not going to be your number 1 receiver. He's not going to be number 1 corner. He'll be your 2 or 3 on either side of the ball, which means he's probably going to get like 55 snaps in a game, which is significantly a break than what he was doing at Colorado.
Emory, I want to ask you about Abdul Carter, but before I get there, I just want to get one more question about Shedeur Sanders. There had been, his game is not perfect. I think we could both agree about that. That being said, some of the criticisms of his game, do you think they're valid or do you think they're just, exaggerated because it's smoke season?
It's exaggerated because it's smoke season and everyone is not confident in their original take of Shedeur Sanders. Because I'll walk through some of the detractors and what they've said and how is this false or they're just not looking at it the right way. If you're talking, one of the things they quickly throw out there, he drifts in the pocket. Okay, fine, whatever. That's just a bad habit. But we didn't see him do that consistently over the course of his career because if that was the case, he wouldn't have been as productive at 2 different spots for 4 consecutive years. If you look at what he has done the 2 years in Colorado, he has finished college football, FBS, I'm talking about, with the highest completion percentage in college football history, not program history, college football history. So since 1869, this dude who has only played 2 years of FBS ball is atop the list. And so that tells you he's doing enough of a good job to get rid of football. And if you have an issue with him holding the ball long or drifting, how about this? This is what he's going to have the benefit of as soon as he steps foot in the NFL program. They're going to run the ball. They didn't run the football in Colorado, so you won't have him dropping back 40 times a game and being subjected to those hits that he was taking at Colorado. They will run the football at least 17 times, which is a zillion times more than they ran it at Colorado. So he won't have to drop back as much and evade as much pressure because he's trying to make something happen because psychologically he knows on the other side of the ball, the defense tends to give up a lot of big plays. So there's nothing, wrong with him in terms of taking sacks because he wouldn't have been as productive if it was detrimental to team success. Because speaking of team success, how many late minute need to go get it drives we saw Shedeur Sanders have? I mean, every time you turn into a Colorado game, they're backed up at the 1 yard line, needing to go 99 and get a score, and they go 99 and get a score. How many times we saw him in 2-minute situations excel and put points up on the board, giving his defense a chance to close out a game, which sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. We saw him complete 2 consecutive Hail Marys against Baylor. One was dropped by the receiver, then the second one was caught by a dude that's like 5'9". So everything about Shedeur Sanders' critiques is dripped in their disdain for Coach Prime. And that has allowed people to cloud their judgment about him. Because truth be told, they don't really like Cam Ward either. Because remember, these are the same people that was criticizing Cam Ward for quote unquote not playing in a bowl game when it was clearly that he was only supposed to play for the half. And so if you look at these people's thoughts about Cam Ward in the beginning of the season, they were always talking about Carson Beck, Connor Wegman, Garrett Nussmeier, all of these other quarterbacks, Jackson Dart, they didn't bring up Ward until it was clearly obvious that Ward and Shedeur were the 2 top guys. And then they started to poo-poo on his draft class and they used Cam Ward to hate on Coach Prime because really they don't like Cam Ward either when both are legit starting quarterbacks.
Okay. Now, Emory, I want to ask you another first-round possibility for the Giants, Abdul Carter of Penn State. Now, maybe this is just me, but I have concerns about his medicals. The stress reaction in the foot, the fact that he didn't work out at Penn State's pro day because the shoulder, which he claims is 100%, but hey, we'll give it a couple more weeks. And there's the possibility that he might work out before the draft, but I'm not convinced that's going to happen. What do you think about, what we've seen or what we've heard about his medicals? And are you as concerned that his medicals might cause him to drop down, or is he a viable option at 3 for the Giants?
There's a lot to unpack there that you asked. And one, I'm glad you brought it up because I feel like everyone's talking about everybody else's, every other prospect's process, postseason process. Like, oh, this person didn't do well at the combine. This person didn't do XYZ at the combine. This person didn't do well at this pro day. This person didn't do XYZ at a pro day. When this dude didn't do anything. I mean, and the last time we saw him play football, he was playing through a shoulder injury, albeit admirable, in the college football playoff. And you respect that he went out there not 100% and gave it his all for his football team and his program. Love that. But you wanted him to get healthy. And you thought, okay, well, he'll be fine. He'll get to the combine. He'll be healthy because he had enough time to rest, blah, blah, blah. Then you find out about the stress issue with the foot and you like, damn, there's something different. Like we even know this was a thing. And so that stopped him from working out. So his postseason process hasn't been the cleanest. And if there's going to be somebody that potentially drops in the draft, and when I say drop, it's going from potentially being number one to I think the floor would be the Panthers, who desperately need a pass rusher. That would be the floor for him. But that's a pretty good drop from 1 to 8. I can see that happening. I can see that being a surprise on draft night. But the player is a pretty doggone good player, and he is still a lot more upside left because remember, he was playing off-ball backer up until this past season where they put his hand in the dirt and said, go be a rusher. He did really well and showed you he has the ability to do both because he's such a tremendous athlete. He is able to his football IQ is off the charts. He knows how to destroy game plans and has a great sense of timing, which is it's a skill in and of itself that a lot of great players have, whether it's offense or defense. If you sitting there watching a Penn State game and say, man, they need a big play here defensively, he's the one that ends up making that play at the right time. So I love the player, but the postseason process hasn't been clean, and I can understand if teams have some reservations.
Hey, Giant fans, you probably heard of Chewy. They really do have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. When you're shopping for food or treats or even pet health care, Chewy makes it fast, easy, and affordable. With over 100,000 products from all your favorite brands, Chewy has everything your pet needs, from food to treats to toys, beds, and grooming. And it's not just for dogs and cats. They've even got supplies for birds, fish, reptiles, and small pets too. Chewy also makes it easy to manage your pet's health with prescriptions, telehealth, vet visits, and even in-person vet clinics rolling out nationwide. And their auto ship option is a game changer. My little Macy here, she never has to worry about running out of her favorite chicken jerky treats or her food thanks to the convenience of Chewy's auto ship feature. Right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewy.com or clicking the link in the show description. That's $20 savings on your first order with free shipping by clicking the link in the show description. Minimum purchase is required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. We're talking with Emory Hunt of CBS Sports, also Football Gameplan. And a little later on, he's going to tell us all about his labor of love, 1,200 draft profiles, his biggest one yet. He'll tell you where to find it, how to get it, what it contains, all that good stuff. But Emory, let's talk now about other quarterback options for the Giants. If they don't go Shedeur Sanders, who do you think realistically makes the most sense for them? And would they have to trade back into the first round to get that person? And if so, how high would they have to go?
Well, this is the whole thing, because I've been on either this show, I think I've probably mentioned it here on this show, but other shows I've kind of lightly talked about it because I fully expect Shedeur and Cam to be gone with 1 and 2. So it was always about the Giants were just outside, the mark for those two. But I always said this, the one guy I would love to see pair with Brian Daboll is Jalen Milroe, because now it makes even more sense. Shows you I was ahead of the curve, because when you look at what they did via free agency, they got 2 veteran quarterbacks that can start. Like Jameis is only 31. and also Russell Wilson's a starting quarterback. Both are starting quarterbacks. Shedeur Sanders is pro ready. He doesn't need to sit. Who needs to sit is a Jalen Milroe, because you have to work through the footwork. You know what I'm saying? The short area accuracy, deep ball accuracy. He's actually, last year he was the best in the country in terms of his deep ball accuracy. It's just about the small things, tying the footwork with the short area accuracy. There's too much inconsistency there. So giving Brian Daboll, who is a quarterback guru, so to speak, to groom a young talent behind two guys, one that was a mobile guy that can do it with his legs in Russell Wilson, and one guy that had the great deep ball accuracy in Jameis Winston. So you kind of get the best of both worlds to kind of teach him and groom him. And now when both of these veteran quarterbacks, they're only on 1 year options essentially, moves on, Milroe is ready to step in. Now he knows the system. You've been tinkering with his footwork and short area accuracy, and he still has that explosive speed. And he's a smart kid, being the military kid, winning the academic Heisman, got better every year. The only thing that increased this season at Alabama was the turnovers, and that could be partially tied to some bad play, but also working through a brand new offense that, with Kellen DeBoer coming over from the University of Washington. But we saw Milroe get better every year under Nick Saban. So it's there for him. And the fact that they're also bringing him to the draft that came out the other day, like, because the plan for me was, if the Giants are there at 3, take Travis Hunter, don't blink an eye, trade back in, to like pick 32, or Eagles won't trade back with you. Trade back into like pick 31, or pick 30 to get Jalen Milroe to get the 5th year option. But now, if he's getting invited to the draft, that tells you somebody may be already eyeing Jalen Milroe. And I know the floor, probably the one team everybody's pointing to, which makes complete sense because you look at the depth chart, is Pittsburgh. So now the Giants probably say, okay, if we're going to have to trade back in, we're probably going to have to get ahead of Pittsburgh. And we don't want to do it right now because we don't want to tip our cap that we're trading back in, because everybody will automatically know the Giants are trading back in for a quarterback. So you kind of have to keep your cards close to the vest. And I think now with the announcement of Milroe being at the draft, now granted, they could be there for day 2, because we've seen guys go walk on stage for day 2, not particularly for day 1, but he could also be in play for day 1. And that's where you have the meme of, you click the little small domino and ultimately the big domino fall. That's where the small domino of beating the Colts now put you in a situation where you could potentially miss out on the top 3 quarterbacks in the class.
Emory, you said, you trade back into the bottom of the first round. So I want to ask you, a lot of draft analysts have said that in terms of true first round grades, they don't have a whole lot of guys that qualify. So I want to get your take. How many guys on your quote unquote big board legitimately have first round grades to where now it becomes almost a no-brainer to trade back into the bottom of the first round, because a lot of these guys are maybe borderline first, early second round picks?
Here's the thing about that, Pat, is the fact that folks, they really get on my nerves. Like, there's 32 picks in the first round. Somebody got to go in the first round. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just have, there's only 15 first round picks. So, 17 of us is going to trade out the first round and we're just going to have the first round. No, you got to pick somebody. So, it don't matter if you pick them on day 1 or day 5. Like, you picking someone that you think can help your football team. So whether you have 15 first round grades on a prospect or 20 or 8, who cares? Because 32 dudes going to go in the first round. And this falls on the scouting department of, okay, yeah, they may not be a first round consensus amongst us, but this dude can play and helps our football team. So we got to, and this is where it gets where you have to really kind of understand the board, the teams around you and their needs. Like, okay, if there may be 3 wide receivers that we have first round grades on, and we we have a significant need at wide receiver. I'm just using an example, not saying the Giants have a significant need at wide receiver. So do we take the wide receiver? Do we move up to get one of the top 3? Or is the grade between our number 3 receiver and number 4 enough to where we can live with getting 4 and not moving assets to go get 3? Or we look at a situation where this draft is 8 deep at D tackle that we have first round grades on, D lineman. Are we comfortable with our D lineman being number 6 out the 8? And you compare 6 with 4 of the receiver, and where is that grade? Okay, let's take D lineman 6, and then we can get D wide receiver 4. Or if we feel like the grade here is a little bit closer, but let's go get wide receiver 3 and wait for D lineman 8, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's you're right. There has to be 32 guys selected, and it's just the reason why I ask is obviously some teams might look to trade out of the first round, some might look to trade down because they figure, a lot of guys cluster up and they have, the same grade, or, maybe they're off by a decimal or two. So that's why I wondered if maybe there might be a few more movement in the first round, especially once you get outside of, say, the top 12 or top 15, whatever it is.
I would also add, too, it depends on a team's cap situation and also roster composition. Because what if you have one of these teams, like some teams have deep rosters? It's like, bro, we can't, if we take someone in the first round, like we kind of want him to play, but where is he going to play? And do we really need to add that first round salary to our cap situation when we don't have spots to play the dude? If we trade out, we get either more day 2 and day 3 picks to where we can build good depth without adding more dollars to the cap, and perhaps, get a known player from a team if teams are able to throw a player in the mix. But just it could be a cap decision or a roster, situation where it's like, man, we don't have enough spots for, a high end top 32 talent.
Hey, Giant fans, the NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on all the action. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. From 3-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com today and claim your $250 in bonus bets. Hey, Giant fans, if you're looking to join an exclusive community of Big Blue Faithful where you can discuss the team and receive inside information in a toxic-free environment, then you need to check out the Locked On Giants Blue Crew community. Members get access to our exclusive by invitation only Discord channel where we can talk with one another 24/7, ask questions, get breaking news, and so much more. Plus, as part of the Locked On Giants Blue Crew, I text exclusive updates and info directly to your phone, and you can communicate with me via text one-on-one. So come on and see what it's all about with a free 14-day trial. And when you use our promo code BLUECREW, BLUECREW, you will get your first 2 months after your 14-day trial ends at just 50% off the regular monthly price of $4.99. If you don't like the service, cancel before your free trial ends and you will owe absolutely nothing. For more information or to register, visit joinsubtext.com/LockedOnNYGiants. And don't forget to enter that promo code BLUECREW at the top of the page to qualify for your 2-month discount. Text and data rates may apply. Please see your carrier's plan for details. We're talking with Emory Hunt of Football Game Plan and CBS Sports. And Emory, I want to turn the attention now to the whole class, because we've been talking primarily quarterbacks here. Having done your film study, who are some of the names that people aren't talking about a lot that they should be, that could be good fits for the Giants?
I would say, I have it tiered in the Giants' needs, right? I think the Giants need a D lineman, someone that could fill that Leonard Williams role of like a 5 technique, that can also apply pressure. You look at linebacker, I think inside backer, they can use a difference maker. There's a couple of difference makers, in my opinion, in that regard. You always want to build depth at corner, and also they need a big guy at wide receiver. They have a bunch of the same guys at receiver. They need someone that's a little bit different than what they currently have on the roster. And so you figure out when you think you would need that. I think pressing need would be more so D lineman than anything else, right? So Ty Robinson of Nebraska, if people watched, Colorado to nitpick Shedeur Sanders, I'm pretty sure the game they wanted to nitpick was the Nebraska game. Well, if you watch that game, to see the one interception, Shedeur threw, you also got a chance to see number 9 just wrecking shop all across that offensive line. And so he is a tremendous talent. Great athlete, probably had the best combine of the defensive tackles. Good ball get off, all those good things, and can play any one of the techniques you need to play up front, which will be paired perfectly with, Dexter Lawrence. And now he fits in with guys on the edge and Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. So now you're really recreating that defensive line that can cause havoc. Another guy would be Tyler Batty, because if you watch Shedeur Sanders nitpick his play and drifting in the pocket, you not only saw Nebraska, you probably also watched BYU, a bowl game, but you also saw Tyler Batty just live in the back as if he was a part of the Colorado offense. And you go and watch the East-West Shrine game, because I was there the whole week. Batty is rock solid. Like, he is someone, and this is a situation, this is what I love about the draft, because you get both of these guys if you're the Giants. So now you got Dexter Lawrence surrounded by 2 dudes that can hold their own at the point of attack, but also collapse the pocket and get after the quarterback. That's ideal. Like, now you really got a front 7 that nobody wants to deal with. So Batty out of BYU is tremendous. And at linebacker, I know he's probably going to, I don't know when the first backer will come off the board, but my goodness, Carson Schlesinger out of UCLA, he would be someone I would trade back in the first 4, just because I don't want him going nowhere else. Everywhere I looked up watching UCLA, he was around the football, making the play, and is just a tremendous instinctive inside backer with good speed, good ability to play both the run and the pass, blitz as well. Cody Lindenberg out of Minnesota. It seems like they just have a factor of producing really good linebackers. Remember Carter Coughlin came out of Minnesota, but Lindenberg can play inside or outside backer, off-ball backer, and just a tremendous talent as well. Jeffrey Vasha of Oregon had a really good Senior Bowl. He's a good athlete that you don't have to take off the field, 2-3 down guy that can cover as well. Those backers would be guys that I like, but Schlesinger would be someone I would trade back into the first 4, because I feel like Jahai Campbell's going to be gone. But Schlesinger might also be gone. But if the Giants can see him and get someone like that, and man, if they come away with Schlesinger, Robinson, and Batty, that defense might be top 3.
Yeah, actually, that's a guy I like, Schlesinger. So I'm glad you brought him up. And we're just taking a step back here. You look at what the Giants have done this offseason. They kind of set the draft up to where, other than quarterback, which is obviously a glaring need, you could make a case that defensive line is a glaring need. But for the most part, it's pretty much, I want to say, almost like a depth type of thing where, just pick guys to fill in depth and groom them to maybe potentially have bigger roles down the line. That being said, how close do you think this Giant team is to turning it around, being more competitive than maybe what we've seen?
Instantly. This team with just Jameis and Russell Wilson should win at least 8 or 9 games. That's the floor, because that's how bad quarterback play was for the Giants. And here's the thing. Giants fans are going to get a treat this year because they don't realize how good this receiving core is, because you hadn't had the quarterback play to showcase that. Like, we know how good Neighbors is. I think people don't realize how good Slayton is. And now we got 2 guys that excel at the deep ball. So you're going to find out how good Slayton is. Jalen Hyatt has been just a Ferrari sitting in the garage because you don't know how good he is because who's going to get him the ball deep? Now you got two guys that give him the ball deep. Also, Wan'Dale Robinson was being used as if he was a tight end, just a short dump offs. That's not his game. So now Wan'Dale Robinson, you get back to being that chess piece. Now you may see him more involved in a run game. Now you may see him more involved in a catch and run situation as opposed to catching, 75 stop routes because the quarterback had to get the ball in his hands quickly and, didn't really give a chance to attack deep. I think this team will look at the receiving core and be like, man, we got some dudes. And the run game will be a lot easier because now teams will have to respect the deep ball. When there's no deep ball to respect, it's easier to curtail the run game, crowd up and stop the run and get you off the field. And so just by having aged Russell Wilson and 31-year-old Jameis Winston, your offense will look a lot better. We'll have more scoring drives, which then subsequently puts the defense in an advantageous situation, which now allows Kayvon Thibodeau to pin his ears back and get after the quarterback, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence to be a one-gap penetrator. Now you may also see the DBs start to turn the ball over, stop playing safe defense, bend but don't break. So all of that happens because your offense is now functional. And when that happens, we saw the Giants do that at times last season when the quarterback play was competent. Now they're in a lot of games. Now they have a shot, and this is when Drew Lock was quarterbacking. And so when you have that type of baseline competency at quarterback, everything around the team looks a lot better.
Final question for you, Emory. Joe Schoen talked about taking swings until he gets it right at quarterback. I would be shocked if they don't draft a quarterback, whether it be first round, second round, whatever. That being said, let's talk a little bit, if we could, about next year's class. And, I know things will change. Guys will get injured. Guys may decide to stay in school and whatnot. But realistically speaking, do you think for the Giants, it makes sense for them to say, okay, look, if we're not going to get a Shedeur Sanders, we'll take a swing on, a Jalen Milroe or a Jackson Dart or a Will Howard and see what happens. But our franchise guy is technically in next year's class.
It depends. Because again, we talked about this in the spring. Remember I told you, be wary of what people will say about this draft class because of who's at the top. They'll say this draft class is not good. Next year's class will be better. But there's always going to be wild cards that come in next year's class. Like some guy right now that nobody's talking about, Taylor Green out of Arkansas. Like if you look at him, he looks like a cross between, Vince Young and Randall Cunningham. And that could be a guy that could catapult, right? I know everybody's thinking about Arch Manning. He's thrown 95 passes. We don't know enough yet to know if he's good enough. You just looking at the name and projecting. And that's not even, Eli and Peyton's son. You know what I'm saying? Like that's Cooper's son. So I just feel like people just focus on this class, and there's guys that we are not talking about that may end up being guys that, damn, how does this dude last to the fifth round or someone like that, right? And next year we'll sort itself out, and we'll do this song and dance again next year where, there are some clear-cut guys at the top and guys that everybody thought was going to be the clear-cut guys, and they're going to have to reassess and readjust, and that's why the whole process is fun, because we get to, pick and choose who we choose to hype up instead of just doing evaluating and letting the tape speak, because that's how you don't get caught up in saying Carson Beck, Garrett Nussmeier, Connor Wegman, all of those, Raleigh Leonard, all of those guys that they try to throw up at the top in September and all fell by the wayside.
Not to mention, there's no guarantee that Joe Schoen and Brian Dable will be back next year.
And there's no guarantee. Think about this. What if the best spot to pick is one? We see that now. The Giants, who were steamroll toward one or two, boom. Now you had three. Now you're out of luck. So what if next year's class only has one guy and you're picking third, or two guys and you're picking fourth? You know what I'm saying? So you never really know. That's why you got to really make sure you're in the best case scenario is be like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't even get to the top 10 so you even have to worry about it. Like just stay to where you don't even get tempted to make some rash move to fly up to go get a quarterback or whatnot. Make sure your team is good. So therefore you kind of quarterback proof the roster.
And then also, there's been talk that the Giants might trade down in the first round, which I can kind of see the logic, to get more draft picks. But the more I think about it, I don't know that it makes sense. Do you agree?
No, it doesn't, because we just talked about it. There's 2 guys at 3 that are worthy. So why would I move down to risk losing out on both of those guys, and Hunter and Carter? Because assuming Ward and Shedeur are gone, Hunter and Carter are like, that's in any class, they would be a top 3 pick. So why would you buy? The whole point of picking high is to get an impact player. Both of those guys are impact players. Now, Carter may be more of a luxury. You won't know where to fit him on the defense because he doesn't play inside. Neither does Burns or Thibodeau. So you'd be putting all of those guys at disadvantage. It would be the Ferrari sitting in the garage type situation. We just talked about with Hyatt, but that's a top 3 talent. And so the only way I would move down if I were the Giants, if I'm getting a known option in a position of need. So if you are a team that wants to trade me your starting quarterback, sure, take pick 3, right? If the starting quarterback is good, take pick 3, and I'll roll with it. So, and that's the only way I would move off that 3rd pick. Otherwise, I'm taking one of the top 3 talents in the entire draft of 5,000 eligible draft picks. I'm getting the 3rd best player, so that's how I roll with it.
Real, yeah. I mean, you've got Cam Ward, obviously, Travis Hunter, top 3, Sanders, from what you're saying, is a top 3, Carter. So the Giants will get one of them to move down, even though it means more draft picks potentially. How are they going to help you this year if you got to wait till next year to, I mean, it'll help you if you want to move up for a quarterback, but the pressure's on this team to win now,
Right.
which also, I think, factors into the equation. So going to be interesting to see what they do and whether they put the priority on the now. I know a lot of teams look not just at the current year, but also 2 or 3 years down the line with contracts coming up and all that stuff. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do. All right, Emory, before we let you go, tell everybody about your fantastic new draft guide, where they can get it, what it has, and all that stuff.
It's a great option for the football fan because it not only prepares you, Patty, for the upcoming draft, but past the draft in terms of the undrafted free agents and how the preseason rosters are transient. So anytime the Giants sign someone, they pop up on a radar, like, man, who's this guy? I'm pretty sure I have a report on him. So it only helps you not only for the draft and showing you in-depth information that you need to know, but it also prepares you for the long haul of a season, preseason, and also regular season. And this year, we got over 1,200 individual scouting reports, the largest draft guide in existence. And on top of that, Patty, over 50 CFL draft prospects. And the reason why that's important is because we know last year, Nathan Rourke was on the Giants roster. Former, it was a CFL stud, CFL prospect. And also a couple of years ago, Rice and John played at Simon Fraser Canadian college football program. He was on the Giants as a flex tight end. So it's also just expanding the fan base's knowledge of what's out there in terms of talent. Because we may see a couple of these guys end up on, NFL rosters, especially during training camp. So it's good to get a good concept. Some guys may be CFL fans too. They want to know, who's these guys that my Winnipeg Blue Bombers or Toronto Argonauts are drafting. We got a pretty good gauge on some of those guys, especially the quarterbacks, because there's been a lot of talk. Taylor Elgersma, who I saw at the U Sports East West Bowl up in May, then ends up getting a call up to the College Gridiron Showcase, to the Tropical Bowl, and then to the Senior Bowl. So he played in 4 All-Star games, 3 here in the States, and had a lot of NFL interest at each and every stop. So that may be someone that you'll see somewhere around training camp. But that's why the guide is so valuable. It's a fun piece of information. And if you've been buying the guide since 2020, you right now would have over 5,400 individual scouting reports at your fingertips. So you would have a pretty good knowledge of what's going on around the NFL, CFL, UFL on all these rosters. So footballgameplan.com/2025 draft guide.
And is that a print edition or electronic or both?
It is PDF. You can go take it to Kinko's and print out if you want to, but you pay more in that printout than you would for the guide. I would suggest just keep it as a PDF file, full color. Do not print out 1,200 pages of a draft guide. Don't ever do that because that will run you tuition.
Yeah, for sure. And certainly that's the draft guide. I know we consult over on New York Giants on SI. I know Coach Gene contributes to that guide. I know I reference it, so I'm going to get my copy, make sure I have it in time for the draft. Emory, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I always love talking ball with you. I could probably talk ball with you for a couple of hours, but I know you've got a lot of stuff to do. Hopefully, we can have you back on after the draft because I would be interested in hearing your takes as to what the Giants did and what they didn't do. So hopefully we can make a date for that, in the not too distant future.
Awesome. Always. Definitely just let me know and I'll hop on and talk about what the Giants did or didn't do in the draft.
And there'll probably be loads to talk about, as there always is. All right, Giant fans, that is going to do it for this edition of Locked On Giants. I want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And I also want to thank Emory Hunt for coming on. Giant fans, we will be back tomorrow. We've got Nick Filato is going to be on the show. He's going to give some insight into his draft analysis that he's been doing for New York Giants on SI. So make sure you keep it here all week long on the Locked On Giants podcast. For Emory Hunt, I'm Patricia Traina, and we will see you tomorrow, Giant fans.